Hello, welcome to another Cambridge video. I'm Steve and I'm going to teach you how to do well in the C1 Cambridge exam. In this part we are looking at speaking part 2. You can see what it looks like on the screen here. It is where you have 3 pictures and you have to talk about 2 of them. In this video we will be looking at the format of the exam, which I've just explained, the technique for how to do it well, what you need to keep in mind, and lots of samples. So I think this is the most useful thing. Here's a question, how should you answer it? I'll show you and give you a chance to answer it, and then give you an idea for how to keep practicing at home. Really breaking down in detail this part of the exam, which is, I think it's the most practicable part of the exam. You can really prepare. It's a very specific skill to be able to answer the questions they give you on this topic. You need to practice it, you need to prepare it so you're very comfortable in the exam and you don't mess up and waste your 1 minute, which is all you have, by the way. I'm not sure if I'm going to say that later, but the format is 1 minute to do all of this. Right, so let's get into it. You are answering questions on 2 photos. This is very important. I say answering questions first because sometimes teachers and students say, oh, part 2, that's the photo part. Yeah, it is, but focus on the questions. There's a reason for this, and that is because at C1 you want to access higher level language functions, and if you're just talking about a photo, you're not getting to these high level language functions. You're wasting your time when you've only got 1 minute to demonstrate all of this. I can see a woman in the park. It's all correct and it's true, but you're not using your time in the best way possible to get that C1 level. If the question was, with a woman in the park, if the question was, what are they enjoying about their lunch times, and there's a woman in the park, then you can say, well, the woman in the park might be enjoying her lunch because she's had a busy morning in the office. Now she can unwind in the calm surroundings with the sounds of nature in the background. And you notice, I've still said woman in the park. So I've still signaled what photo I'm talking about and sort of described it. But I haven't wasted time by saying, well, in this photo, I can see a woman in the park. That's not good enough. Answer the question, because then you've got things like speculation, you've got different verbs, enjoying, you're showing your reasoning because she's had, and it just gives you more chance to expand with vocab and grammar. Busy morning, unwind, you're making a more developed, impressive answer. So, answer the questions. That is the key point, which we'll keep going back to, but this part of the exam is answering questions. The photos are there as something to give you ideas, but mainly you are answering questions. Right, let's do this with an example then, Luke. These are all going to be original in this one, in this PowerPoint, so you shouldn't have seen any of these before. And here are your photos. They show people eating lunch. That's what the examiner will say. He or she will say, they show people, they show because it's always one theme. I'd like you to compare 2 of the photos and say what they might be enjoying, why they might be enjoying their lunch, and what they might do after lunch. Okay, and we can see they're all having lunch. A woman in the park. This looks more like a business lunch, and this looks more like people on holiday enjoying a long, relaxing meal. Okay, understood. How do we do this? Well, this is my patented technique. I think I invented this. I don't remember anyone else talking about this, but it's called the 2x2 maneuver, the 2x2 diagram. So I've got a 2x2 diagram in my head, which looks something like this. And we can see question 1 is why are they enjoying it? Question 2 is what will they do next? And I've got photo 1 and photo 2 that I'm going to talk about. I'm going to talk about the woman at work or on her lunch break and the people on holiday. And then I need 1 point for each matrix of the table. So question 1, why she's enjoying it. For photo 1, she's enjoying the peace and quiet of the park, no distractions, she can do some work. Question 2, this is what she's going to do next. For photo 1, she's going back to work. Clearly she's going back to work. Maybe she has to do something, deliver whatever she's working on, this project she's working on. So a bit of speculation, but I'm answering both questions for the first photo. Then the same for the second photo. Why are they enjoying it? The scenery, the view, the company of being on holiday, and what they're going to do next. Well, coffee, ice cream, go for a walk. It's going to be a long, relaxing lunch. So thinking like this makes certain that I'm going to answer both questions for both photos, which is what you need to do. Once you've got that, the next step and this is really taking it to a really high level, is to connect them a little bit. Because here we can see these are quite different. She's going to go back to work, but they're going to be more relaxed. So I can think about how can I compare them with a contrast here, on the other hand. The first one is a bit more similar. They're both enjoying the nice place. They're both quite nice, natural, rustic backgrounds. So here I could say similarly. So I can use different comparing, contrasting words to connect these ideas together. And if you put all of that together, that's 1 minute. That's definitely 1 minute, and that's if you're doing it quite well. You've got your 4 points connected together, a little idea for each one, and that's your 1 minute speech. It's well organized, it's clear. That would be a perfect answer. So let's practice doing it. Let's practice coming up with a little idea for each question, for each photo, connecting it together. That's what you need to try and practice. To practice this, obviously what we need to do is think about the ideas that will come up. So what ideas could you have for photos? There is normally a theme that they're expecting you to talk about. This one is work, lunch, social lunch. So you could think, okay, a work lunch, what are you talking about? Business, deals. What are you wearing? Who is paying for it? What's the atmosphere? And all of these will be slightly different for a social lunch. It's a more personal conversation, more relaxed. You're paying for it yourself. This one may be similar. You're having a nice, the good food and drink, the atmosphere of eating out. They're going to be a bit more similar. But these are typical ideas that should be popping up to your mind when the topic is types of lunch. If the topic is types of transport, then we do the same thing. And you think, oh, okay, well, the train is more comfortable because you can walk around and you can get your computer out. The car, you've got more freedom because you can drive straight to your destination. The bicycle, it's good because you get some exercise, but it's not so good because if it's raining or windy, you're going to be uncomfortable. So you're thinking of typical ideas for the topic they are giving you. After you've identified the topic of here, types of lunch, but the topic could be, like we said, types of transport or anything like that. Identify it, come up with some ideas, and then put them in this matrix and organize your answer. Right, I hope that's clear. Let's see how it gets with a bit more practice. So here's another example I've made up. For this one, I would recommend taking a bit of time because, like everything, first you need to get good at this skill by starting slowly, being more deliberate, writing things down. Then as you practice more and more, you won't need to write it down. You can just do it in your head and it will become more natural, easier. You'll be better at it. So for this one, try and write something down. Why might people choose to live in these different places? What might their lives be like? 2 questions, 2 photos. Write something down. Pause the video. Then, here is how I would answer it. There's going to be lots of me doing this because I think that's what students normally want to see. So let me put a timer on. Okay, well, I think obviously people choose to live in the city mainly because of access to work. You need to be close to where you're working and there's more opportunities in the city. On the other hand, you could choose to live in the suburbs because you still have some access, but you've also got a nice natural surrounding, some green grass, a bigger house maybe for the same price. I imagine life in the city is normally a bit more active. You're going to parties, going to the theatre. And you can do that in the suburbs, but it's a bit more spending time at home, maybe going for a walk with the dog around the block, bit more space maybe to play in the garden with the children. So they've got some similarities in that you can still enjoy lots of the convenience of the city, but maybe it's a bit more quiet and relaxed in the suburbs. Done. So 1 minute, and hopefully you can see my ideas about work, about a quiet life, about a family life, and I'm trying to compare and contrast them a little bit with the 2 photos. And all I'm doing is answering the question. Everything I said was an answer to the question. That's what you need to do. So that's describing the photos. Of course, there is one second part of part 2, which is after one person in the exam has described the photo, there is a question for the other person, which is normally like a little personal question on which would you prefer, which do you think is the best, the least, the most, whatever, some kind of little personal question. For this, it's about a clear answer, a reason, an example, 2 or 3 sentences. If you refer back to something they said, that's okay, because there's only so many ideas and maybe they've said a lot of ideas. You can do that. Just try and use some different words. As Ines said, you could enjoy some peace and quiet here. I probably didn't say peace and quiet. Maybe I said relaxing, calm. Well, peace and quiet, different bit of vocab, okay. In this example, we would have something like, where would you prefer to live and why? So a good answer might be, pause the video, where would you prefer to live and why? And a good answer might be something like, well, I've already made my decision. I live in the suburbs. I like having my own little garden, and I think living in a city with neighbours on top of you, to the sides of you, listening to their conversations all the time and whatever TV program they're listening to, and hearing the traffic all the time, not for me. I want the peace and quiet of living in the suburbs, in a nice house with a garden and a wooden fence. Something like that. So nice and clear, on topic, little bit of vocab as always, neighbours, that kind of thing, fence, nice bit of vocab, helping the question. Right, that's part 2. That one is a little bit simpler, but make sure you say something clear, something relevant, answering based on what you see. Let's go back to some more practice. Come on then. So I think a great way to practice part 2 is by making your own exams. It's very, very simple to do. Think of a theme, like I've talked about. We've done different lunches, we've done different places to live, different adventurous activities, types of work, ways of traveling, any kind of theme like this. Find 3 photos that represent different aspects of this. So if it's adventurous activities, we could have one person surfing, one person climbing a mountain, and one person doing bungee jumping, going bungee jumping or something. And then, the question is, why are they doing these? And I don't know, how do they feel? What are the risks? Think of some questions that you would ask that to give you something to talk about. These questions are made to give you something to talk about, to try and find those typical ideas on these topics. Write your questions and then think of something to say. You're thinking like our little matrix we made. Or if you're doing it with a partner in C1, then you're very, very lucky. Make one for each other, swap them, and try and evaluate. Have they talked about both photos with both questions? Have they used a bit of comparing, contrasting language? Have they done everything in 1 minute? Is it well organized? Is it a good answer, like I've been trying to show you? So I'd recommend making your own. That's what I've done. Pause the video, try and answer this one. Give yourself a timer for 1 minute. And here's what I'd consider a good answer. Well, I think the people cooking in a big family have probably chosen to cook this way because they want a social occasion. Maybe they want to teach the young kids how to cook some traditional recipes. Maybe they all want to be together at the weekend. So I think it's a really nice way to cook together. What they need to consider is the problem that they could be getting in each other's way. Too many cooks can spoil the broth is an expression, I think, and it means they're all in each other's way, and it might be difficult to start, knives flying around could be complicated. On the other hand, the man preparing a microwave meal is probably cooking like this because he doesn't have any time. Maybe he's just got back from work, so it's late at night, it's been a busy day, and he wants to just put something in the microwave so it's ready straight away. He needs to keep in mind not putting it in for too long, because when you put them in the microwave for too long, they come out hotter than the center of a volcano and you can burn your mouth. So be careful with that. Okay, something like that. A clear idea for each one, choosing fairly contrasting photos and talking about them. Let's keep going because it's all about the practice here for me. So again, try this one yourself. And here's what I'd consider a good answer. Well, I think going to like a Christmassy town in the Alps or something, it could be a romantic getaway for a couple, or it could even be a family who wants to go skiing. And in fact, I'd say that would be a great activity to do there in the mountains, skiing, walking, hiking in the mountains, and then coming back to a nice hotel with a fire and a hot chocolate. So it could be a family or maybe a couple who do that as well. On the other hand, a city break in London, Well, I'd say this is people who enjoy, cultural tourism, who want to go and see the Houses of Parliament or the British Museum. So people interested in history, maybe, people who like learning English. And the activities, well, it's more, like I said, it's more cultural activities. In London, you have to go on the London Eye, you have to go on a tour, go and take a photo with the phone box, go to the British Museum, lots of things to do in London. Okay, I'm doing this spontaneously, like you should be doing in the exam, okay? I have not prepared this, so it might not be perfect, but that's what it should be like in the exam. I am following my advice of all you can do, answer both questions for both photos and connect them a little bit if possible. Then the stress of the exam, the adrenaline of the moment, okay, we consider that, but if you follow that pattern, you're doing as well as you can, with a little bit of good vocab and grammar, which you should be learning from your natural English. Okay, last one to practice. Pause the video, try this one. And here's a good answer. Okay, well, mowing the lawn, you have to do this if you want to have a nice, well-maintained garden where you can play football and cricket. And also it just looks nicer anyway. It's very satisfying to see everything organized and neat. And how you feel when you do it, I find it very satisfying. Maybe I'm a bit weird, but seeing the grass where you've cut and then everything becoming nice is a nice feeling. It can be a bit hot depending on when you do it, but overall, nice feeling. On the other hand, ironing clothes, well, I guess you have to do it if you are unfortunate and you work in a job where you have to have a nice shirt and tie, like I did in the UK. But how you feel when you're doing it, for me, boredom, frustration. Maybe I just wasn't good at ironing, but I hated doing the ironing. And for me, it was not a relaxing chore at all. I think in the end, I paid for a laundry place to do it because it was easier. So quite different chores for me. Okay, something like that. That's it. We've had lots of practice. That's part 2. Hopefully you've seen how to do it. You've seen lots of examples. Main takeaway from the video is make your own and think, what should I be saying for these photos? That's the best thing you can do to practice part 2. Make your own. If you're practicing with someone else doing C1, even better. Send them to each other, compare, contrast, listen to each other. That's how you do part 2. Thanks for watching. Come back for another video next time. Bye.